Hey, this is Anonymous again. I want to expose the secrets of the bell curve to the world. But seriously, folks, a bell curve, a statistically driven bell curve. You've seen graphs that are labeled as bell curves, not just a graph of averages. So when a graph is called a bell curve, it has a bit more depth to it, a bit more meaning that makes it more important to understand what it's showing you. So, one of the elements of a bell curve is the volume underneath the bell. And that area is a volume. It should be shaded or colored in because that is the total sample size. That whole area should be the sum of everything that you sampled. If you threw things out of the sample set for whatever reason, wrong time and date. So you just discard 1,000,000 records because of a wrong time and date with no investigation or with a invalid understanding of that one discrete database 8,000 miles away. So that bell curve, that little chart graph done on an XY piece of graph paper, that area component needs to be thought about when people are speaking to it. So we've seen a lot of charts and graphs that are called bell curves, and the significance in the bell curve is the areas. If you're going to compare the area, the sample size has to be the same, should be the same, or should be explained or qualified, right? Talked about, understood. So in these bell curves that are being shown, again, a huge, tall peak in a short period of time versus a long, smaller peak over a long period of time. I already said that. So you've got two bell curves next to each other or overlaid. The same amount of people are going to be in both sample sizes. You're not eliminating anybody from the sample size. We have no way of doing that. The only people we can eliminate legitimately is people that now have an immunity. So, this is where the claim of a bell curve is more information than just the picture that you're presented, the line on a graph. You're actually speaking to the area underneath. So if your bell curve has 40 million people as a sample size, and it's that tight, short, huge peaked bell curve, that's the killer. That's what we need to slow so we have time to treat and take care of patients over a long period of time. You can dissect this how you please, but the bottom line implied needs to be understood in that bell curve is what is the total sample size? What is the total population that could be affected? This is where you go and look and understand why a vaccine is important. a vaccine like polio, which I pointed to before, it really is worth looking at the response to the 1940s and 50s and how Salk's polio vaccine was distributed, how the response was managed and orchestrated by a trusted at the time agency of the United Nations in concert with their partners. No special pleading. You can't special plead. When you have a solid bell curve. Eh?